You believe in miracles? We got Fizzle in the house. Fizzle, what's good, man? Fizzle, glad to have you here.
Let's go. This the South Harmon podcast. Glad you here today. Hit that Patreon link if you here to stay. Dynasty, best ball, that's my favorite way. 40 chess trade show, let's make a trade today or check a AMA. You know Adam at the ATM. Mike always in the building, he gon' stay with him. They gon' start every show off with their own trade. Fantasy's a big ocean, they made their own wave. Make sure you tapping in Tuesdays and Saturdays. Tuesday night, Saturday morning, ain't no better way. Hit that notification bell when the news break. Go subscribe right now, don't get the news late. Destination Devy, that's the team. Dynasty football, man, that's my favorite thing. I remember Biggie said it was all a dream. Now people watching on their phones and computer screens. Welcome to the team. Let's start the show.
Oh shit, Tuesday night AMA, we are back. This time, hopefully, for longer than 9.5 minutes, man. And that's how you know Derek Brown is one of the best, too, because went through all that bullshit last week, and he still said, you know what, I'll be back next week. We got to do this right. So big thanks to Derek for coming back. Adam, did you feed the fucking hamsters, man? Have you fed them? Are we good to go?
I fed them a lot, man. Hopefully they're not overfed, because I wanted to make sure we went a lot longer than 9.5 minutes. They're moving. They're good. We got Fizzle in the house already with a super chat. It's the South Harmon podcast. Glad you're here today. Had the hamsters with me cooking up another song earlier. Oh, okay. Fizzle, if you drop another song, we're ready for it. I already told you guys this last time. One of the few things we got through on the 9 minutes. Fizzle's going to be at the expo. But without further ado, D-Bro back again for another week, even though we only gave him 9 minutes last week. What's going on, man? We're glad to have you back, buddy.
Hey, man, you accomplish anything in 9 minutes. That's the motto. So, nah, man, look, we talked about it this pre-show. Feels like it's been longer than a week, baby, but I'm glad to be back in the house. I did not mean to do this, but rocking some DD gear, you know how it goes. How you boys doing? We talk some trades, take some questions. Like, what's up? I mean, Fizzle's popping off all this money. I mean, keep rolling up the bank account, Fizzle. I love it, baby.
Yeah. Don't stop here. Fizzle, is putting us on. We're that intro he made us is fire. We're gonna talk. We're gonna talk trades. We're gonna talk whatever the questions are that are in here. But D-Bro, let me ask you. We kind of talked about this a little bit last time before we were rudely cut off by my internet, by me, you could call it. But we were kind of walking through some trades that you had made and some of the second round guys and how you weren't all that down on the 23 class relative to consensus. I remember you were kind of talking a little bit about the receivers. I don't know if there was anything further you wanted to get into or kind of rehash with the 23 class, some of the trades you've made, especially like in the second round you were mentioning.
I mean, I feel like these players are the easiest to trade for in recent memory, man. It's just like everybody hates this damn class, and you could see it from how easy it was to trade into. If you can still got rookie drafts coming up, just take this, write it down, put it up there on the wall and stare at it, But the thing about it is that this class is easy to trade into, man. You can get in the second round for pennies and stuff. Like, you toss somebody a 24 second, doesn't matter where it's going to be, and a 24 third, which that shit's a dart throw anyway. You could probably trade into the mid second round into this class, into a rookie draft. Like, not even breaking a sweat, man. And, for a lot of the players that are in that range, that doesn't make any sense to me. You got second round wide receivers in that range. You got some tight ends that I'm actually taking. Like, I don't let Laporta fall into the second round, but that's just me, But with these players that, like, if everybody in consensus is wrong about this shit and this class plays better than what people are expecting, because we touched on this last time, but I want to hit it again, man. It's like we got over analysis paralysis going on. Like, I feel like the last two classes, everybody's built up to be like, man, they're going to be awesome. this shit's going to be off. Like, it's going to be great. They're going to be fantastic. All these dudes are going to blow up. And the class gets here, and you popping off rookie drafts, and everybody's like, man, I don't like this class that much.
Yeah.
Next year's class is going to be the class that you really want to get into. So trade out of this and go at that class, because this one's terrible. And I'm like, did this shit 2 years in a row, man. Like, y'all wrong about Christian Watson. Y'all wrong about a lot of players in that last class. Like, yeah, some of them didn't fire, but very few just absolutely just fell on their face. Like, we still got hope for Treylon Burks. All those first-year wide receivers, whether you want to talk about Olave, Watson, Wilson, all these dudes. All these, Drake London, all these guys give you flashes like they are really damn good. So out of this class, say like you got all these second-round wide receivers. Jaden Reed, you've got, off the top of my head here, Jaden Reed, you got Rashee Rice. Who else am I missing here? Jonathan
Marvin Mims.
I'm not about no Mingo life, but Marvin Mims, that's 3 second-round wide receivers right there that, depending on consensus, could have gone anywhere from like the 203, the 205, all the way to the back end of the damn second round. And it's like, people are so divided on this class, and most people hate this class. Like, it's very rare when you hear conviction out of people like, nah, man, you know what? I love this. I love this guy. I want him. I want to trade in. I want to get a few of these guys. And that's just where I'm at, man. Maybe that's just the DFS mindset in me. But I feel like overall, people are shitting on this class. And as much hate as it's gotten, if this class does turn out and produces a few studs, people are going to be hating themselves that they traded a mid-23 first for what turned into a late 24 first, and maybe some change and stuff like that. But you know what? Maybe I'm drinking too much of my own damn Kool-Aid. What do y'all think about it?
No, I think you make some great points. I mean, I think especially at a certain point, like at 107, I know people are kind of, whether it's 107, 108, 109, just trade out, get to the 24 first.
I think that's 110, to be honest.
Okay, then let's say it's 110. Yeah, let's say it's 110. When you get to a certain point, people are basically like, I don't want any of these players. I don't want to bet on them. Okay. Mm-hmm. But the reason that 22, the great point that you made, D-Bro, which was a lot of great points, but one I wanted to talk about was 22, after the class happened, right? Because Kenny Pickett was the only quarterback that went in the first round. Everyone basically said this class has failed you before they even started, right? Before they started, they said the class failed you. And the thing that was wrong was that there was a bunch of receivers that were really good. Now, this class, as far as prospects, maybe doesn't level up 1-for-1 with those guys. But look at how many guys that we said that we weren't really excited for. Mike and I, until Jay Rich had to talk us into Chris Olave, right? There's so many receivers in this class last year that you see also have like value retention because they are rookies, and because once you see it enough on the field, people are going to give them another year or two to perform. I think there's going to be some guys undoubtedly in the second round range that are going to be hyper values compared to what they're trading for. So I can't disagree with that part of what you're making at all, D-Bro, personally. Mike, what do you think?
Can it be both, in my opinion? Like, the class is not bad by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think it's junky at all. Is it disappointing, though, from what we thought it was going to be, what it was promised? Like, I thought we were going to have 3, 4, 5 second-round running backs or early day 3 running backs where I go, man, I know this dude just walking right into a role. Man, I love his talent in college. I love his prospect profile. Instead, we got a handful of guys, and I'm sitting here, and now I got to make the decision where I go, is Tajay Spears really that much worse than Zach Charbonnet? Maybe. But at the end of the year, if you find out that Tajay Spears was the best running back who got the similar draft capital, I'm not going to be shocked at all. Same thing where, like, I'm trying to make the bet. I loved Roshan Johnson as a prospect, but then you see the draft capital and you go, oh, well, I still like him, but damn, why couldn't you go in the third round? Why couldn't you go in the second round? Why couldn't you go here? It's kind of the same thing with the wide receivers. It just becomes very convoluted where it's not as good and clear cut as we thought it was going to be. Like we had projected, Tank Bigsby is an absolute unit. He's going to go to a smash landing spot. He's a stud. We projected Kendre Miller, Devon A-Chain. Instead, we only got a handful of these guys, and then they all end in like similar spots that are like convoluted that we don't really know. That's probably the problem, is because after Zay Flowers sits there, at least in my opinion, I'm not all aboard this Dalton Kincaid like hype rocket that's been going on. But after that, I sit there and I go, damn, man, after Will Levis goes, because I want to shoot my shot on quarterbacks in Superflex leagues, especially guys who go in the early part of the second round. Like, I'm willing to make that bet for what the cost is. After that, in the next 14, 15 picks, they could go in any order, and none of it's crazy to me. None of it. And that's probably the shittiest part about the class. Not that they're bad players, but I got to make that decision, right? I got to trust what I hear from Ray, right? His breakdown on. I got to trust my gut. I got to make the decision on it. It's not so clear cut and easy for me. Where like last year's class, while it was junky because we had one quarterback. Let's think about it. We had one first round quarterback worth of shit. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to talk ourselves into Malik Willis in the early mid part of the second round in Superflex drafts, which is a horrible bet to make. Oof, it was a junky ass class, but the good thing about the junky ass class, it was like, I know what picks are going bing, bang, bang, boom, and I'm going to get Jahan Dotson or I'm going to get George Pickens every single time at the 111, the 112, the 201, wherever the hell I wanted to take them. It's a slam dunk. This class, it's like I could get Devon A-Chain at, the 205 sometimes, or somebody really likes him and they take him at the 110, and I go, damn, that was like the guy that I wanted. Now I got to talk myself into Tajay Spears, talk myself into Tank Bigsby. So I think that's my problem with the class. It was projected to be a lot more clear-cut and better. It's not that the players are bad or the landing spots are really that bad. They're just very convoluted, and it's hard to sort through the whole thing.
Well, go ahead, bro.
I want to throw something else out here. I think in the next few years, we need to, and I think this has already started. I've already started to kind of change my tune as far as how I kind of look at some of this. Like, does draft capital still matter a ton? Yes. Does draft capital still matter as much for running backs? Yes and no. And I'm only going to push back and say no because yes, we still get guys in the first round, but there are very few and far between, and it is only a handful of them. And 9 times out of 10, everybody in the NFL and Dynasty community, everybody shits on the team that ever takes them in the first round anyway, so whatever. But I think we need to start looking at this as the second round is the new first round, the new third round is the new second round, and so on and so forth. Because you're seeing guys get pushed down the boards because the NFL does not value this position. So if the NFL overall, outside of certain outlier spots where we could cherry pick and say, Dave Gettleman's an idiot. Oh, the Lions, what the fuck are they doing? Outside of those tiny cherry pick spots, how many guys, like all these second round running backs, have smashed in the last few years? Third round guys come out of the woodwork. Fourth round guys come out of the woodwork. They might not have more than a year's shelf life. And I'm not telling you like last year when Tyler Algier down the stretch was blowing it out. Was that time for you to have drafted him maybe in the third round? Because he wasn't going high last year. You could have drafted him in the third round and flipped him in season for maybe a second round pick. Maybe you threw something in with him and got a first from somebody or whatever that was going forward and said, you know what? He's the dude. I need a guy. Let's go. That needs to change, though. And I think the longer we get this extenuated circumstances of running backs coming out of the woodwork and producing, whether it immediately or in their second years, that get draft capital, that's like top 4 rounds, I think we're going to have to adjust how we're looking at this as well. Because the NFL has adjusted, but I don't feel like the conversation in Dynasty has adjusted far enough. Like, just when Mike was talking about Roshan in the 4th round, I'm like, fuck it, I don't care. Give me Roshan. I'll take him in the mid-second. Like, I believe in my prospect evaluation. I got that dude above Tank Bigsby. I got him above Kendra Miller. I got him above Devon A-Chain. I got him above Tajay Spears. Roshan I got as my RB4. Because just like you talked about, Mike, you could throw those guys in a similar bucket, but there's also a lot of people out there that would say, those are third-round running backs, and this is a fourth-round guy. So I'm going to put him below there because a lot of a draft capital. And I'm like, you could do that? I'm not going to do it.
That's a fair argument, especially with the running back and the draft capital, because the league is shifting. We've seen that now. We saw Jahmyr Gibbs go at 12, and we saw that them erupt in the war room because they were going to take him at 6. But those are the special talents. When you talk about guys that, like Debro's talking about, round 2 being round 3, I think there's definitely a need to have a real discussion about that. But I actually kind of want to bridge the gap between this year because I think the 22 class, right? Mike, you kind of talked about it was already supposed to not have the same hype that 23 had. And I think that's part of why last year didn't feel as bad. But now this year, because 23 felt bad, I think people are even leaning into it further, which brings up the point that, okay, last year in the second round, everyone wanted to get out for the most part. But this year, I think what's interesting is even with all the people that, Zach Evans didn't get great draft capital or landing spot. Like, there's a lot of guys that got pushed down the board. But here's the thing. I think it's gone so far that in the second round, a lot of it's league dependent. Mike, you talked about how sometimes A-Chain's going to go 110, sometimes he's going to go 205. In your league and a lot of these drafts, I've seen spots where as I see A-Chain fall, I'm like, man, he's sitting here at 205. Like, I didn't even think I had a chance to go get him, but maybe I can send a player, right, to someone for 205. They're just so ready to get out of the second round, not even worrying about that it's Javon A-Chain. That's the thing I think that actually makes the 23 class, to the point Debro's making, where we're all kind of on the same page. It really is league dependent where, man, if I can get Devon A-Chain at the 205, there's a lot of players on my teams everywhere that I'll send for that 205 all of a sudden. And because it's not as clear cut, that's what makes a lot of the second round buys for me when I've done it.
You know what really proves this point for me? Really proves a point for me. I do a shit ton of leagues, man. 32, 33, 34, whatever the hell it is at this point. All the rookie drafts are done except for maybe one, and it's a C2C league, so it's not really the same thing. All the rookie drafts are done, Adam. I think I only had one trade up in the second round. Me. What you were just talking about with A-Chain falling. I think it proves the point to me, though, that the class is good. It's deep. It's hard for me to want to trade up into those spots. It is probably very easy to do. I just don't have the conviction like you were talking about with A-Chain. If I saw him there at the 205, I'm never thinking to myself, I got to trade up to go get this guy. Like, I have to. Because I look at it, what we were just talking about, I'm like, well, shit, Roshan's still on the board. Oh, Tank is still on the board. Shit, I can get one of these guys. I'm coming up at the 211. I'll just take one of these dudes. Like, I'm comfortable with them. I'm fine with it.
You take Jade Reed if he falls to the 209 or some shit. Like, take the last guy to that long tier.
It's a second round wide receiver with top 50 draft capital, which analytically, if you want to look into those data, those metrics on it, those guys usually do fairly well. Now, if he's outside this top 50 in the second round, a little bit more questionable, but it's still a second-round wide receiver. So the class is deep, and there's very good players. I just haven't ever traded up. The one time I traded up is because Will Levis fell to the 201, and I wanted to be an asshole and QB hoard even more than I already do. So, hey, if he's going to fall to the 201, boom, I'm trading up. I'm taking another quarterback.
The other thing that I think that you've been able to do this year as well, and this is something I'm also starting to do with a lot of my Dynasty teams, and in the wide receiver specific, I give you a lot of these guys, unless I am like tried and true, like balls deep in on your prospect profile, and I love the player. For a lot of these guys, I honestly have just been recycling second round wide receivers because it's so damn easy to do. We know that if they don't fire in their rookie seasons, that their hit rates go down, their ceilings go down, the chances of them actualizing either go down. So like this year, shit. I traded away Alec Pierce. I traded away a decent amount of Sky Moore, although I still have a lot, because I was able to re-roll that second round wide receiver bet in trading Pierce for straight up for the 207, the 208, and re-rolling it with Jayden Reed and saying, you know what? That second round wide receiver didn't hit. I'm able to trade back into the second, maybe a little bit later than when I grabbed Pierce, because I grabbed Pierce in a lot of drafts in the early second. But I'm making the same damn bet, except I'm refreshing the clock and saying, well, we've seen 1 year. A lot of people still believe in this dude, and I'll say Alec Pierce because he's gotten a little bit of buzz out on the social media streets lately. Some people like him. For me, I cashed out. I cashed out every single freaking team I had him, and I just re-rolled that second-round wide receiver bet on somebody this year because it was that damn easy. People were like, shit, no, I don't want this second. You're going to give me Pierce. And I remember I liked Pierce kind of somewhat, sort of as a prospect. Sure, I'll give you the 210. You go get draft Jayden Reed. Maybe Rashee Rice falls to you or one of these other guys. Or if you believe in Jonathan Mingo. Like, that has been a really, really easy thing to do this year. And I think that is exactly what you should have been doing too. Because, again, you don't produce in your rookie season. Hit rates, all that kind of stuff go down. Just re-roll the bet. It's too damn easy this year to do it.
That point was one I was going to make. I'm glad you went first, Debro, because that is so key, right? So we all know, like, let's talk Sky Moore for example. All right, now Sky Moore is probably the worst example last year of face planner. Like he is the face planner of last season. But when we get to like 211 type, Mike, like you're talking how some of these guys fall, right? So I traded at one point. I traded Sky Moore for the 211, and Roshan was still sitting there. One of my drafts, right? Like because at that point, Mike, it's not even Roshan for sometimes for people. It's basically I just want out of these picks. I want something that's a name that I don't feel as sketchy about. Now, that's probably an extreme example. The point is, if you the difference there, right? Don't even use Sky Moore. Use someone that maybe isn't quite as bad, Alec Pierce. The point there is now if you hit on whether it's Jaden Reed or Roshan, because we've already seen with how rookies, if they even hit, they don't even have to hit crazy. They have 3 weeks that are decent in the first 5 or 8. That has a catapulting, rising, like that's seismic what they can become.
Jahan Dotson is the perfect example of that because Jahan Dotson, whenever I looked at his numbers close, you could still trade Jahan Dotson for a late first, or you could have gotten a late first. Maybe you could still get a late first. You're projecting a late first in 2024. That's still possible, and that's where he went in last year's draft. But a lot of that is, if you look at the beginning of the season numbers, you're like, fuck, like I don't know about all that. But then you look at when he came back from the injury and the dude was producing at a wide receiver 2/3 level, then what you're exactly talking about there, Adam, is exactly right. You can re-roll that, or the value has not fallen off. And we didn't see a ton out of Jahan Dotson. Like his overall season numbers, you wouldn't be like salivating just looking at them and like, damn, I got to trade for that guy. But
yes,
it's true. His value held or is holding just based off of those last few weeks, which I'm in on it, but it's still a truth.
Yeah, I'm with you, Mike. Any further thoughts on this topic before we get into questions? Because they're brewing here, man.
Just last one, man. We got D-Bro on. We got a new perspective. Where are you at with this Dalton Kincaid thing? Are you team Dalton Kincaid? Are you driving the bus, or are you more like me, like sitting back going, what the hell are we doing, man? Like, what are we doing with the Dalton Kincaid thing?
I'll say this. I'm driving the bus / riding on the bus / I'm okay if I get a ticket to the later bus. Mm-hmm. And in saying all of that crazy shit, like, yes, I will take Dalton Kincaid in the first. I will take him in the first. Yep. I do believe in the talent. And the thing about it is that we talk about the drop-off of this class and stuff. Once you get past those first-round wide receivers that all went, fuck it. Give me Dalton Kincaid. Screw it. Give me Sam Laporta. I will take both of those guys, and I have taken them at the back end of the first. Because I don't make these kind of bets on tight ends, especially like before this class, I was always like, man, y'all are stupid. I'm not trading into the first round. I'm not drafting no damn tight end in the first round of a rookie draft. But this year's class, and I'm not cherry picking guys, but it's different. You have guys with elite upside profiles that got really damn good draft capital, and I think it's different, man. So it's some of it, yes. Could you sit here and say, okay, I'm cherry picking these prospects? Yes. But if we're not doing that on some prospect evals, and we're not willing to sit here and stand behind the work that we're doing and saying, I believe in this player, then one, what the fuck are you doing?
Right.
I don't really get it, man. Like, because for me, I'll stand behind my prospect evals. I'll stand behind the profiles that I do because you're doing the work. And if you're not willing to do that, then what are you doing? You're wasting your time and everybody else's time that's sitting here following anything that you're saying. So for me, yes, I'm willing to sit here and put my name behind it. I am drafting Dalton Kincaid in the first round. I have taken Sam Laporta as high as the back end of the first round. They have high-end athletic profiles. Yes, I know Dalton Kincaid did not test everything analytically I can look at. Yards per route run, receiving grades, yards per route run versus man coverage, which is one of the best tellers and prognosticators of elite upside at the tight end position. Him and Laporta check those damn boxes. So yes, I'm making those bets, but I get the pushback on it, but those are the bets I'm making.
The pushback I have, I don't think it's the first round at all, because I'm with you, especially in leagues that are start 2 tight end or 1.75 tight end premium.
Yeah.
Easy.
What you said, man, after you get past Zay Flowers, and for me, after I get past Will Levis and the quarterback advantage in Superflex, I'm taking the tight ends all day. And I do have Kincaid, even though I'm a Laporta guy, I have Kincaid. He got the first-round draft capital with Josh Allen. Like, that means something. But Mayer, Laporta, both very good options as well, both worthy of being taken at the 111, 112, 201. The problem I have is especially with Dalton Kincaid, and Adam and I are looking at it. I mean, keep trade cut is not the Bible as far as values go, but this man is up there pushing George Kittle. He is pushing TJ Hawkinson. He is pushing. He's comfortably over Dallas Goedert, David Njoku, Pat Freiermuth, like tight ends that have produced at a level that I'm going, this feels like we're over our skis, man. Dalton Kincaid's good, no question about it. I'm not here to shit on him. Like, he has very good metrics. I was very shocked when I found out in my C2C leagues last year that I had so much Dalton Kincaid. I honestly thought I was drafting the other tight end. This is how bad I am at C2C leagues. I thought I was drafting the other tight end at Utah. So I did have a lot of Dalton Kincaid, but you go in your C2C league and you see every single week Dalton Kincaid's putting up massive numbers. In that game versus USC, he was ridiculous.
They couldn't stop him. They tried to, and they couldn't stop him, man. And so I want to bring up one other point, and I love Laporta. I put him and Dalton Kincaid are in the same damn tier. So when you talk about, am I driving the Dalton Kincaid bus, the other part about it is like, why take the early bus when I could take the later bus? Well, what I mean by that is like, there's times where I've traded back out of like the late first because I know that I value Sam Laporta higher than all the other people in my damn league. So I can trade back a spot or two, pick up some extra equity or whatever you want to, however you want to construct that trade, or you did construct that trade. I did that in a lot of leagues because I'm like, well, everybody's worried about Dalton Kincaid's playing time. Well, okay. Well, so why don't I just trade back? And I firmly believe that Sam Laporta has the same type of ceiling as Dalton Kincaid, except he's not as expensive in rookie drafts. He got similar draft capital. Don't come at me with like the second round versus the lead into the first round.
We're talking a
handful of hand picks. Don't
exactly early second. Come on, right?
That doesn't matter to me. So like for me, if I could trade back from the late first and still get Laporta at the beginning of the second, or even go from like 110 to 112 and pick up something in the process, that is a move I've been firmly making, because the questions we have about Dalton Kincaid's playing time, you ain't got that with Sammy Ballgame. Who the hell's going to stand in front of him for a full-time damn role, man?
I was D-Bro going to come on this show. He's going to come on this show and give Sam Laporta a nickname when I've been driving the damn Sam Laporta bus.
Sammy Ballgame, man.
Sammy Ballgame.
I got to come out with T-shirts, Mike. I'll get you a tank top, baby.
Yeah.
I'll get you a tank top.
Let's go. Listen, man. I think the main thing, though, because this is really good discussion on the tight ends. I agree with D-Bro's points all along as far as this class, I think, projects to be different. It's deeper. There's high-end upside with this class. I think the only difference really is it's not in rookie drafts. Like, I don't have any problem really with where they're going in rookie drafts. It's more so, like, if I have Dalton Kincaid, right, and I'm not going to say I don't like him or I don't like Sam Laporta, but when I've had these guys, what I've noticed is after the draft's over, people are, like, treating them as elite second, third tier tight ends. Let's call it that, not elite ones. Mm-hmm. But they're close enough to where I can maybe add to it to get to an elite tight end. Or I can put Sam Laporta in a package and go get Jahmyr Gibbs. That's, I think, the crazy part about it, where it's not necessarily that like, I love Laporta. I like Kincaid. I just don't necessarily love him at cost. I think you kind of touched on that too, D-Bro. But to me, it's more so, is it worth cashing out based on fake value that we're projecting in your league? That is probably more subjective to the league that you're playing in and what you can trade out of. So if you have Kincaid at the 110 and you can't up tier to an elite tight end, and you can't, like, there's nothing wrong with holding the guy. I just want to say that I think you should at least explore. Is there a scenario where you can up tier, get some crazy value off of him today that makes too much sense to not do? So, all right, Mike, let's get it. Go ahead, bro.
The only last part I want to mention here before we get to questions and stuff is I really think that once you get about, to be honest, guys, once you get past like tight end 3, like you're talking about Kelsey, Pitts, Andrews. I like TJ Hawkinson. Is he going to be an elite tight end? Probably not. Jordan Addison's coming from them targets. George Kittle's getting older, and you never know when to freaking start him. Dallas Goedert's a third part of that offense.
I hope Cooper's not here.
No, we'll see. But the other part of that is like, who are these other guys that we have so much damn conviction at the tight end position? You know, it's like, I know we talked about David and Njoku, but after this year, his contract, Browns could cut him, and he could be a journeyman. Evan Ingram is still on a franchise tag. Greg Dulcich has a new head coach to deal with.
Right.
So it's like,
yep.
For me, after you get past that top 3 guys, like, I mean, I'm not up tiering for a lot of guys. Like, I'll just like, there's a lot of leagues where I've traded Pitts or I've traded a few of these guys. Like I've traded Hawkinson or Kittle and stuff. And I'm like, you know what? Screw it, man. I'm going to sit here and I'll have Laporta and I'll pick up somebody disgusting. Like I'll pick up somebody like a Dalton Schultz or who have you, or go grouping tight end and have Laporta waiting in the wings. Like if he becomes that dude, then that's probably something I'm actualizing next year that I'm just going to kind of piece it together, because overall the tight end position in Dynasty, I feel like we were about to see a spot in Dynasty where it totally flips. You're going to see Kittle fall down after being another year older. You're going to see Freiermuth, if he doesn't pop to a high extent this year, he's going to fall. Hawkinson, if he comes back to earth with Jordan Addison being the number 2 in that offense, he's going to fall. Kincaid, Laporta could hop these dudes after them being another year older, and you got even Bowers coming in next year. Like, right. I think that this is a new wave and a shift in Dynasty at tight end, and so while, like, I'm not willing to pay those high prices and trades and stuff for these guys, in rookie drafts, I find that those prices were not high to trade into the draft to select him. So I push that button a whole lot, as well as if I can get exposure to that, yeah, I'm making that bet, because I think also the Dynasty landscape for tight end is going to flip, and I think it's after this season.
I will say we're all 100% on that board. If you can trade in to the second when it's devalued and pick up Laporta, even Mayer, and then you can utilize that to either hold or trade into other things. I think that's where you completely play 4D chess and win. So I think we're all on the same page there. All right, Mike.
We hadn't mentioned a trade here real fast, but y'all tell me just real quick.
Go ahead.
Before we get into this, if you were to trade George Kittle for 2 seconds right before the rookie draft, people would have probably said you were stupid and you didn't get enough value.
Yes.
But tell me, which side of a trade would you take? Would you take George Kittle or would you take Laporta and Marvin Mims? For me, it's Laporta and Marvin Mims.
What do you got, Mike?
This is league-dependent format. We talking let's just go lineup. Okay.
Set a lineup, not premium, just straight up like PPR Dynasty.
Start 11.
Yeah, PPR Dynasty start 10. No tight end premium. I think I'd probably be comfortable doing that with no tight end premium.
No tight end premium, yes.
Kittle for Laporta and Mims. A lot of people out there would say, "Shit, you didn't get enough for George Kittle," and I'm like, I feel pretty damn good about that.
I'm with you.
Yep.
In a best ball tight end premium league, I will hammer the shit out of the Kittle side, and it's not generally I want to take.
No, but it's best ball, so you don't have to fucking worry about that. You're going to get your 3 or 4 spike weeks out of George Kittle.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right, D-Bro. That's exactly right.
Right. And then depending on the tight end premium too, because he's also been one of those guys, in a 2 tight end premium league, he could have a 10 catch game where he's just an absolute weak wrecker at the position, right? We've seen those 50, 55 point games from George Kittle. I know he's getting old in the tooth, but
I was going to say the only tight ends
that has that ceiling to actually just.
He's going to be after 30. He's going to be older than 30, and so I think his value, even if he puts up another good George Kittle-esque season, he's going to drop after this year.
Hey man, just like Stone Cold Steve Austin, all the good years were after 30 anyway, so he'll be fine.
Hey, no shade for me on that one.
I love it. All right, man. Let's get into questions. Texan Wolverine in 2-point tight end premium. We're starting 13 Superflex. It's an auction startup. I have 2 elite quarterbacks. I have Pitts, Andrews, and Goddard for just over 60% of my budget. How viable is continuing the tight end horde since I can flex up to 5? Mike likes hoarding, so I'll let Mike start off with this, and then I'm going to get to D-Bro's points here too.
The fact that he already listed, though, he's got 2 elite quarterbacks, I don't even care about the tight end part. He got that for under 60%. In auction startups, I've been a big proponent of, I will spend every bit of 60% of my budget just to get the 2 elite quarterbacks. So he is off to a phenomenal start because he's got 2 elite quarterbacks, and he also has 2 elite tight ends and 1 pretty good one in Dallas Goedert. I don't know if I'm going to continue to hoard it, right? Like I already got 3. It's a lineup league. I know it's start 2 tight end, or it's the 2 tight end premium. So it is, you can flex these guys at a decent enough clip. I just never really feel good about it, do you? Like you're never going to feel good about putting Goddard in the flex spot if you had a wide receiver of comparable value. You're like, shit, Goddard can only catch 2 passes for 15 yards and not score a touchdown, and he doesn't do shit for me. It doesn't really matter. You always feel better about the comparable player, even in those higher premium. Because it's lineup, like I'm probably not hoarding tight ends anymore, Adam. Just my opinion here to this question. I'm going to stop. If I'm just over 60%, I'm in a great position. My tight end room's locked up. My quarterback room is good. I just need to find a third one. I'm just going to go start filling in wide receivers and running backs.
I pretty much agree. I think the only thing I would say is I'm comfortable doing it for one of these rookies that I might be able to just make the hoard deeper for if it's cheap enough. It's all going to be subject to price at this point. Like
Sammy Laporta only.
If I can get Laporta for,
can we just talk about the same damn trade? Get Dallas Goedert and trade him for Laporta and plus. Like
yes, exactly.
To me, I'm like, you don't continue to hoard. If anything, I want you to pare down. You keep Pitts and Andrews, and you trade Goddard for two usable pieces, and let somebody overpay for tight end premium.
Right. That's exactly the point. Right now, you're already in a hoard enough where you can keep the 2 elite ones and trade Goddard to someone that's desperate, right? So you don't need to keep leaning into it. However, if it's cheap enough where you're going to get Laporta at 2-3% budget, you're going to get some of these rookie tight ends that might fall through the cracks because people have spent their budget elsewhere. Like I'll do it, but I'm not actively looking to say, okay, let me go get George Kittle now too. Let me go get Michael Mayer now too. If they fall to you at the spot which makes sense monetarily, go ahead and lean into it. But I would not actively be looking to add more tight ends with the 40% you have, if that makes sense.
I adamantly agree. I would not be looking to add anything. If anything, I'd be looking to move Goddard. Probably not right now if you're still in like the middle of that auction startup. You probably do that after, and then people start freaking out. Or you do it, you don't even do it after. I think you do it towards the later part of the auction when people start looking at that starting lineups, and while you're like, ain't nobody setting a starting lineup. It's freaking May. I don't give a shit about that. But the person that's like, man, all my tight ends suck, and we got 2.0 for tight end premium, then you go find that person and you trade them Dallas Goedert towards the end of the startup when they start kind of staring and peering at that starting lineup and saying, well, I thought it was good, but it ain't that good now.
Shout out to Koopa for the Warp Tool, right? And this is a South Harmon FF.com plug. But you could pull up the settings, man. Two tight end premium lineup league. What he's talking about here. I mean, Dallas Goedert, we're probably projecting somewhere in that like 6 to 9 tight end range. Like that's a good year for Dallas Goedert.
Yep.
It's worth basically a wide receiver too, man, warp-wise.
Correct.
Even in the 2.0. Like, it's not as good as you think in your head and not as good as what people project. So if anybody out there goes, oh, man, you got 3 tight ends? What's it take for Dallas Goedert? Give me a wide receiver 2 and a plus. Like, that's the hoard part or the leverage part that I would take every single time. Give me Brandon Ayuk in a second, and Dallas Goedert yours. No questions about it. Here you go.
I'd even do Ayuk straight up.
I would absolutely do Ayuk straight up, but I want to leverage that just a little bit in people's minds.
Yeah, because if Goddard doesn't perform at that wide receiver 2 level, because here's the other thing. A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, second year of that offense. Devonta Smith, we saw actualize more of that passing attack down the stretch. Right. I want to say over the final few weeks, he actually out-targeted A.J. Brown and had more of the air yard percentage. But looking at that, hell no, man. Like, I'd rather make the bet that Dallas Goedert's only giving me wide receiver 3 production. If I could trade him straight up for a wide receiver 2, I'd make that bet.
Boom. I'm 100% with you there, which is why I would not lean into it other than if they fall to you and you're like, this is just criminal value. I'm going to press the button to take them at value. All right, J-Dog, 12-team Superflex PPR lineup, start 10. Would you send Metcalf and Addison for A.J. Brown? Ooh, this is interesting.
No.
I
don't hate DK as much as everybody else seems to hate DK, I guess.
I like DK, but I think fine. DK, we know what DK is at this point. He's a low-end wide receiver too. Like, that's what he's been outside of his rookie season. So, I mean, I'd rather take wide receiver 2 production out of him and maybe Addison over just a AJ Brown for me. Because I think we saw the ceiling. Last year was, I think, the ceiling for AJ Brown. I don't think it gets better than that. And I loved AJ Brown last year.
I would agree with the point you just made there, especially about like that's probably what his ceiling is, because you've already seen Devontae Smith start to eat into target share. Now, one thing I do believe in AJ Brown is the one thing we've actually seen is he's basically been able to be great with low volume. But to your point, like he's not going to be better than it was last year, I don't think, which he was great last year. Here's what I'll say, J-Dog. The only way I would make this trade is if you have stacked so much value that you're looking at such tough decisions at all of your flex spots and receivers to where you really can afford to make this up tier. And I would maybe even see if I could get something back on the back end. Like, if you want to make this bet because you are so stockpiled with depth, I understand doing it. But I will say, like, by and large, as a generic question on most of my teams, I'm going to say no to this. But if it's one of these teams where I've stacked, like, 8-9 receivers that are in the, top 30, 35 in Dynasty, I can understand making the up tier. For me, by and large, though, I'd disagree with sending this on most of my teams, the way I play. So that's, I guess,
I'll add another caveat here. If you're going to make that upgrade, then don't, for me, and I'm going to go back to this, I think we saw the ceiling for A.J. Brown last year. If I'm going to make that type of upgrade, and I'm saying I want to I want to upgrade this spot, like whether you got enough depth to do that and sacrifice it, maybe you lose a little bit of equity, but you gain a higher end asset. I want one of these wide receivers that I don't think that we have seen the absolute ceiling of. A.J. Brown, I think we've seen that. But just to give J-Dog a little bit of help here, like, for me, if you can even add to this package, like throw in like a 24-second, whatever, and get up to Chase, I would do that. Jefferson, I'm kind of worried about what Minnesota does with the quarterback situation. So I'm like, it's not that I hate Jefferson, and that can work itself out. But guys in that same tier for A.J. Brown, there's two that come to mind that I don't think we have seen the absolute ceiling for, that I don't want to trade and try to up tier for a guy that I don't think that the best, and this is kind of how I rank Dynasty too. Like, I'm more aggressive on guys that I think that when we look back after the upcoming season, they have either hit a new ceiling for production or they have continued to go up in Dynasty ranks, even though we thought maybe they were already kind of tiered, like topped out. The two guys that come off the top of my head that I think you can make this same trade for, but I would rather have, I don't think that we have seen the best out of Jalen Waddle. If Tyreek Hill takes a step back at all, Jalen Waddle could be the one in that offense and not Tyreek Hill. The other guy that I want to throw out, and I love him, I give zero shits. I want to try to get him anywhere I can because I think he's going to blow up this year, and I think it's going to be a lot of it's going to be because of touchdowns. I would make that up tier, and a lot of people won't agree with it, but I make the up tier for Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think he's going to catch I think Amon-Ra is going to catch 115, 120 balls this year. I think he's going to have double-digit touchdowns. I think he's going to set the fucking world on fire. Like, he's actually my dark horse wide receiver 1 overall.
Ooh, damn, I like that. We love Amon-Ra here.
I'm not going to lie. D-Bro had me in the first half when he's talking about Jalen Waddle. I'm sitting here and I'm looking, I'm going like DK Metcalf, Jalen Waddle, that's the same fucking thing to me. And then he hits me with the Amon-Ra St. Brown and he pulls me right back in.
Right back
in. He pulls me right back in. I'm back in.
This one you thought it couldn't get any better? It got
there
better.
It
got better.
There it is. I think there's only this in context of what the question was. There's only two guys at the wide receiver position I would make that up tier for comfortably, without what you said, Adam. Knowing context of the team, like if DK is my wide receiver 4 or 5, and Addison's like my 6 or 7, and I need to up tier in a lineup league, by all means, man, I'm going to shoot my shot on Lamb and Tyreek and AJ Brown and Diggs and T Higgins, Amon-Ra, Devontae Adams. Like I'm trying to jump up a tier, right? I'm trying to get better production, closer to 20 points per game. But it's Jefferson or Chase are the only ones just in the vacuum on that question where I go, yeah, I'm comfortable paying that to move up to them, and I do that all day. But I do agree with the Amon-Ra thing. God, I love me some Amon-Ra, man. I'm out here fighting a good fight on him.
Dude, he's going to be so freaking good. And I've been in our Discord for Fantasy Pros telling people, like, me and Ray talked about an Amon-Ra trade for my boy that I think he's actually in y'all's DD Discord as well.
Okay.
But he traded up for Amon-Ra, and I was like, I'd been pounding the table, like telling him to do that because, dude, like when I look at Amon-Ra's season last year, his red zone usage down the stretch was absolutely freaking ridiculous. Like I'd have to go back and pull it up, but like it skyrocketed. And he's honestly, that's why I say like he is a guy that I think is going to flirt with double-digit touchdowns, and he has not been like a massive touchdown producer in his career. But I think that he's going to show some people some stuff this year. I think he's going to hit a totally different ceiling compared to what we've seen before. He over his final 9 games, he had 15 red zone targets. I want to say off the top of my head that was top 3 at the position over that stretch.
Ooh. Just total for the year, he's number 8 in red zone targets. Nobody would have guessed that.
If you go and look at those game logs,
right.
It was like beginning of the year, giant drought. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Holy shit, right? He's got games of 6, 2, 4. He's got just at the back half right there. Like
the Lions and Ben Johnson said, touchdowns,
6 fucking red zone targets from Amon-Ra St. Brown. And this is a guy you look at and you go, man, he only had 6 touchdowns last year.
Right.
Yep.
Well,
that red zone threat.
And I like Laporta quite a bit, but Laporta's not going to take away his red zone usage. Like Amon-Ra clearly was a featured point in the red zone for them later in the year. He basically had 150 targets last year too. Like Hawk did leave late in the year
150.
too.
That's what we're going to go with.
Colts is going to get up there. He's going to get to 150, 160 this year. People sleeping on it. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm with you on Amon-Ra. I'll say this again. Same thing with AJ Brown. I would do it if I had the correct roster. If I could get to Chase or Jefferson, I'd personally do it just because I think they're so different. But overall, those are 2 really good assets in Dynasty at receiver that I still believe in. That's part of my hesitation. Like if you gave me 2 other different names and similar ranges, maybe, but I really believe in both those guys. So we got a super chat from TK. Thoughts on Ken Walker as my running back 1? What should I be doing? I spammed offers for Pollard, Stevenson, Jacob owners to pick up a second on top, but crickets. I'm not going to panic on Ken Walker. Now, I do think that it's obviously not going to be what he was last year. I mean, they drafted Charbonnet, but he's also a great rusher. Like Ken Walker, people need to understand he is a great rusher, even if Charbonnet takes some of the workload away. That does not mean that Ken Walker goes to 0 or this unusable asset in Dynasty or in fantasy. So I think the panic level on Ken Walker should pause at a certain spot. So I don't know if you guys disagree with that or if you had other thoughts. Debra, I'll start with you.
I'm out.
You're out on Walker?
I traded Ken Walker in 2 different leagues, and there are 2 guys in the same bucket, both going into contract years. I traded Ken Walker for Cam Akers in a 24 first in one league. I traded Ken Walker for J.K. Dobbins in a 24 first in another league. I would still do both of those deals in a damn heartbeat.
So would I. I would agree with that totally.
Yeah. But to me, you tear down. That's what I think you do with Ken Walker. You get yourself a 24 first. You find a running back that people that consensus, like Dobbins, like Akers, if you project that 24 first to probably be like maybe a top 3, maybe a top 5 pick, you could even talk me into trading Ken Walker. And I know this is going to be a name that people are going to probably hate. But if you're telling me that 24 first is a high end first, probably, like team's just utter dog shit, give me the 24 first and James Cook. I'd even take that.
100%. Especially if the team's bad, I would do that. Now, what I will say is this here. TK, I think, to Debro's point, which I fully agree with, I think right here, when you're trying to get to Pollard, Stevenson, Jacobs, I think you're too high on what you're trying to net back in the running back because, like, Pollard right now, because of Zeke being gone, right, everyone's creaming their pants for Pollard. Stevenson is very hit or miss on how the community views him, but you're probably going to a Stevenson owner who still really believes in the guy. Jacobs is coming off the RB1 season. This is not the tear down that you want to try to go to. I think Debro's right.
He's trying to tear up, and the problem with that is you can't take an asset that the entire Dynasty community is down on and try to use that to tear up.
Correct.
What you do is you flip that on its head and you tear down and
to
you
a hated
pick up
player.
the pick in the process.
Yes.
That's easy to do. What you're trying to do to tier up is not going to work. I mean, you could have told me that you were thinking about this, and I would have told you that's not going to work.
Right, because he's also trying to pick a second up on top, trying to get this old Ken Walker value that's not happening. So to the point, right, go to a guy like Akers, who's everyone's so split on. Go, like, if someone doesn't believe in Dobbins because of how up and down he was last year with the injury, even if you got to go lower, the point is get lower, get off Ken Walker, get a first, and then get the plus back. Because I'm telling you, if it's a chance of a playoff miss as a first, that in value alone is probably close to Walker. So the cook, that running back that you're adding on top is probably where you win. But Mike, what do you think?
So to what you just said, right? In a lot of people's minds, you're trying to tier up and ask for a second.
Yep.
It's a non-starter for some people. A lot of people aren't even going to do this shit straight up. It just depends on how they rank them. And now I have them very different. I see one of the guys on there, like I have Jacobs above Kenneth Walker, and I'm not panicked on Kenneth Walker, but I acknowledge the fact that Josh Jacobs is actually pretty damn good at scoring fantasy points for my team. So he's up there. Ramondre is a guy people like. Pollard, definitely a guy that people like. I will say this. You do need to tier down if you don't really feel good about Kenneth Walker. I'm not completely panicked on him, but he has taken a pretty big hit. A big hit from when we were talking about him in October, November as Dynasty RB1.
Massive from that point.
Just because
I had him as a top 5 guy. I had him like RB4.
Yep.
So if you just cut out Derrick Henry, in my opinion, I think it's probably because I'm higher on J.K. Dobbins, but that's a reasonable one to go try to see if you can quote-unquote tier down. That's one of those ones where if you did it straight up, it wouldn't be the worst thing, but you get a second on top of it, holy hell, smash. I think it really starts the conversation at like DeAndre Swift, Javonte, Cam Akers, Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, like Joe Mixon, Damian Pierce. All these are guys that people have their own opinions on for whatever reason. But if you can get a second on top of those, I do it all day, right? I'll give you
Damian
Ken Walker.
Pierce,
I was going to say, Pierce was a great one you mentioned there, Mike.
Pierce, Akers, and Dobbins. That's the 3 guys that I would go out to the league and target those 3 guys because I feel really good about their projected workloads this year. I also feel really good about the fact that if you tier down, if they blow up, you just flip them. So you could, in season, if Akers, Dobbins, and Pierce are steamrolling people with volume, go trade them in season for a 24 first. You just turned, if you would have tried to trade Ken Walker for 2 24 firsts, straight up, everybody would have laughed your ass out of the league.
Yep.
But you can actually accomplish that by doing this type of stuff.
Yeah. I'm going to give you one more that's further down, and it speaks to the point to wrap up everything we said earlier about seconds. I think that Tank Bigsby right now is so split. Like, there are people that are starting to buy into him that he's going to take away workload from ETN, and there's some people that are just ETN stands. So if you get an owner that took ETN or Tank
Adam,
Bigsby, let's say,
look out there at Twitter. It ain't some people. It's everybody's an ETN stand, brother. And they want blood right now. Okay,
and let me say,
to let you know.
good, more for me and you. You want some? I want my Tank Bigsby share. So if someone took Tank Bigsby, let's say in the late second, and probably isn't feeling all that gravy about it, you take their 24 first and that Tank Bigsby they probably don't even love right now, and you give them that Ken Walker, let the bomb go to them because Tank Bigsby has upside at least for this season and forward. And that 24 first, if someone's making the bet right now where they're giving a running back and that 24 first, their team has to be either bulletproof or they're someone I want to bet against. So I'm 100% with you guys here.
I was going to say, too, like I have another tier after that where like those guys were that running back in the second. I'll take that tier down. But there's another tier of running backs in the first, and Tank Bigsby's in that one. It's with A-Chain, Miller, Gibson, Charbonnet, Tank, Roshan, Miles Sanders, Rashad White, James Cook, to what D-Bro said. You give me a first on top of it, enjoy your Kenneth Walker. I'll help him pack his shit, get the fuck off my team.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll throw 2 other unsexier names out of there. One because he's old, but he's still really damn good. I would take Aaron Jones in a 24 first, and I would honestly even take David Montgomery in a 24 first because, I mean, look, Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be good. David Montgomery is still going to have a damn role in this backfield. He could be an RB2 this year, and he's sewed up in that backfield for the next 2 seasons. So
we just saw what Jamal Williams did in that backfield.
I know.
Right.
Everybody's like,
far
Dan
less
Montgomery's
talent.
dead. I'm like, but dude, did y'all just saw what Jamal Williams? Like,
Right.
I like Swaggy. I love him as a person.
Yes.
But as an NFL player, there ain't nothing special about that at all. And now you got David Montgomery in Jahmyr Gibbs' wheelhouse for the next 2 years. He's going to score touchdowns, dude. He's going to score touchdowns. He's going to be an RB2/RB3. He's going to be a startable piece for you and probably a really good one for the next 2 years. But nobody wants to hear about that because, David Montgomery's bad. So,
All right, we got a super chat from Cody. So I'm going to get to that first. So where are the targets going? So more for Gibbs, JMO back after week 6, and Laporta is supposed to be good. How does this happen and everyone else not move down? So this question, I'm thinking he's talking about the Detroit offense, and he's saying where are the targets going. I'm assuming this is about Laporta, Mike. Are you reading? I mean, we've seen some Cody Lewis stuff that doesn't have to make sense. Maybe I'm just not reading it right. Mike?
I think he's really like trying to ask y'all how do we see this target tree?
The target share in Detroit, yeah.
Like, not everybody can catch passes. If we love everybody, somebody's got to fall, right? And I'm like,
that's fair.
That's the way I'm reading this. And what I will push back and say about this, Cody, Laporta getting 90 targets puts him probably top 12, top 10 tight end. 90 targets is not a whole lot in the grand scheme of things.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking at this offense, they actually shifted more to the pass down the stretch. Gibbs is really the one that needs those targets. This is a really consolidated passing attack. If you look at this, like, say JMO and Amon-Ra get 50% of the target share. And that's probably what you're going to look like when all those guys are still on the field. Okay, Laporta, considering get 15 to 18%, and he could be one of the best damn tight ends in fantasy.
Yep.
Okay, so now we're staring at 68%. Jahmyr Gibbs getting 15% target share is going to be absolutely fantastic, and the rest of the people in that offense get scraps. All of these guys can coexist. It's not that we love everybody, but if you break it all down, yeah, you could definitely love everybody. Targets are earned. Targets go to good players. The good players in this offense, if they earn targets, then all the other parts and scraps and whatever. I mean, look at Miami last year. Everybody's like, well, somebody else got to emerge. Well, shit, no. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill are going to sit here and get 60% of the target share because they're just that damn good. So this can coexist fine. I'm not worried about all that.
Yeah. What you just said here, he listed off 3 players, right? Gibbs, JMO, Laporta, right? JMO not till after week 6 because of the suspension. You look at the Lions' targets last year, man, and I'm not a target share or the whole vacated targets, the thing that goes around on Twitter, which is kind of funny to watch. But this is just the way the targets broke down last year. We talked about Amon-Ra, 150, 146 to be exact. But DeAndre Swift, 70 targets, right? Jahmyr Gibbs, you can easily just slide that right in, right? Just boop. All right, here we go. We just replace them 1 for 1. We're fine there. Khalif fucking Raymond, 64 targets. Josh Reynolds, 59 targets, and DJ Chark, 52 targets. I listed off 4 players with over 50 targets. You're talking about putting 3 in here and wondering if we have enough to go around. I think the thing is we do have more than enough to go around. Well, that doesn't even count Brock Wright having 24 targets his damn self.
Damn it. This is why when you get me surrounded, I'm sandwiched between Mike and Debro, there's nothing, speaking of scraps, for me to pick up. They already cleaned up. I'm the
Adam, you
the
can talk about
Raymond.
Marvin Jones. We left you Marvin Jones. I mean,
right.
Damn, man, that's a Marvin Jones shade. I didn't think we were going to get there, but we got there fast.
Well, if I'm the Marvin Jones, then I guess it's equivalent, and it makes sense to shade Marvin Jones. Right. I'm out here feeding on the scraps. But the point is, though, I was going to say everything that Mike did about the other target earners in the past. This is an offense that has been showing you they want to have all these playmakers, and if they do have those 4 that are heavy consolidated into the targets, I think that what that shows also is another reason why, as much as Mike and I like the prospect of JMO before the injury, while with all the stuff he had last year in his rookie year, not playing much, and now with the suspension, look at it. Seriously, even if we consolidate it, he's going to probably be the 4th dog in this offense. And for what that means to fantasy purposes, I'm not as in on him as I once probably was. So that's another good point about JMO. Let me just try to get something that they didn't say. So we got one more super chat here. All right, so we're half startup rebuild, 12 team, 11 PPR. So we got Kyler and A-Rich at quarterback. I traded back a ton. He has 6 24 first, so he's got half of these things. And he's got Fryermuth. Reasonable wide receivers: Addison, Dotson, Deontay, Bateman, Elijah Moore, and Reed. Okay, so he got 2 of 2 because that was the super chat. 2 of 2 was offered Pitts, Najee, and Flowers for Kyler Murray. Felt I couldn't refuse. It's a 1.5 tight end premium. Now quarterbacks 2 and 3 are Pickett and Mack. Good trade. Did I wreck my build? Should I sell Najee to keep the tank or use some DC to compete? So this is this is a detailed question with a lot of moving parts. Mike, go ahead and start us off. So I don't know if you need me to pull up that 1 or 2 just to give you the context as well.
No, I'm looking at it. So did he have, and you can let us know, Simon, in the chat, he had the Kyler / A-Rich. So it was like his choice between the two?
No,
first off.
The way I was reading that was he had both of these guys.
He has both of those guys. That's his
He's got both
plan.
of them. Holy shit.
Well, he had both of them, but he did say that he traded Kyler, though. So he traded Kyler for Pitts, Najee, and Flowers.
I like that trade. I'll jump out in front here. I like that trade. I mean, you got 2 maybe foundational pieces in Flowers and Pitts. If Flowers becomes what you think he can become, which I think he can, with Kyler. I mean, here's the thing. You ain't winning shit this year, Simon. You know that. But here's the thing.
How the hell did he pull this off is what I want to
know. I don't know. That's a fantastic trade.
How do you walk
I
out
agree.
of it with it, no matter what you think about Kyler, in my opinion, I think he's still a top 12 dynasty quarterback, right? You can make the bet on him. It's risky, the whole thing. But there's not a lot of other dudes where I'm going to go like, oh, yeah, I'll put them over Kyler pretty easily. But he walked out with A-Rich, Kyler, 6 first, a decent enough core. Like he's got a tight end 7, 8, 9, whatever.
And young core receivers, right?
And he's got some young wide receivers that are at least threshold wide receivers. These aren't junky ones where you go, these are the Scott kind of roster cloggers.
Right.
He walks out of it and he comes out with 6 firsts on top of it. Yes. Like as much as I will in a vacuum, no. Would I take this for Kyler without knowing the scenario? Nah, I'm good, man, because it's still a quarterback. It's still a good enough quarterback.
I would take it for Kyler.
But I will take it for Kyler when he's sitting here. He's got A-Rich still left. He's got Pickett. He's got Mac Jones at quarterback. He's got 6 firsts if he wants to up-tier any one of those in the next few months to go to an elite quarterback to pair with A-Rich and just run Pickett or Mac as your QB3. Hell yes. And you got a running back. He didn't list off any running backs until that trade. And whatever you want to think about Najee Harris, he's still a guy, at least in the running back landscape. That's a guy I'm going to start every single week. But as long as he's healthy, and I'm just going to try to find whoever the hell I can fill in at RB2. I got some decent enough receivers, and I still have all of this fucking draft capital just sitting there going, yeah, if the season goes bad, who gives a shit? I'm loaded next year. Or if the team starts out and I'm 4-2 by week 6, I go, hell, I got 6 first. I might push some of these in. Let me try to up tier. Let me go try to get some studs. Let me go try to buy these running backs from the teams that are obviously not very good.
The thing that I think, though, to bring both of you together again on this is where, okay, like in a vacuum, just value-wise, let's take, even with Superflex included, Mike. Like, I know what you're saying, you won't take it, but like if you told me someone's giving you Pitts, Najee, and Flowers, like value-wise, that makes sense. But I know why you're saying no is because how do I get the quarterback back? Here's the reality, though. If you take 6 first in the 24 class, like even if you're telling me that you think that they're 107 to 112, we know for facts that variance is not going to let that happen. Plus, one of them's your own, right? You're going to replace the quarterback, and maybe even 2, with these 6 first. And then you got the tight end that everybody still wants, whether they like. You see it right back here. I know you see it. Kyle Pitts is a unicorn. There he is. You got him. You got Flowers. You got Najee. Like, I think you accomplished everything you wanted in the startup, and then this is a great trade. Like, based on what you've built, this is a great trade, man. This really is.
This trade is insane, and I'm only going to break it down like this. To get Kyle Pitts on your roster, you're going to have to give somebody a first plus. So let's just call it for what it is, like a first and a second.
Yep.
To get Najee, you're going to have to give somebody probably a first, maybe a first and a second. To get Flowers, he's a first-round pick. That's 3 firsts and 2 seconds. So let's just roll that in. You just basically got 4 fucking firsts for Kyler Murray. That is a smash and a damn
Bro just went fucking old school on us, man. That's how we
He just took you out, Mike, with the old way, man.
He kneecapped the shit
It's
out of
4 firsts, dude. Like that's auto accept. Like you're like, yeah, good. Dude, I think this deal is really good for both of us. Then you put the phone down and you're like, ah!
Because
that's awesome.
The best part is at minimum, it's 3 firsts and 2 seconds, right?
Yes.
And when you're saying it's 4 firsts in value, but the point is, like, if you get 3 firsts for Kyler, you're already at the point of you're already at the point of probably just moving, even if they're liquid first and you don't know what it's going to be. Mm-hmm. You get Pitts though, and now the thing about Pitts is, yeah, you can probably buy for a first and a second depreciated, but there are people that are staunch believers in Pitts, and in the tight end landscape we talked about with those other guys, Pitts is the difference maker here for me, right? Like, if you don't want to sell for 3 firsts because you're not sure how you're going to get your quarterback back, fine. Pitts makes it the big difference maker for me. I'm doing this. I think, Simon, you killed it personally. So
you killed this whole thing, man. For the minute that started.
This is absolutely
Simon's
fantastic.
been on a heater.
Dude, the other thing, Simon, I'll say with this, man, there's no way in that 24 class. The other way you can keep flipping this, man, is you walk away, like, say, I have no clue where those 24 firsts are. But say you walk away with Caleb and Drake, like 2 of those are top 3, and you got A-Rich, then, I mean, screw it. Like, you could even trade A-Rich for a haul and keep rolling it over, man.
You can, yes.
You've got so much equity here that this is exactly how you rebuild. This is how you build just a monster that nobody wants to do anything with. And right now, the other corresponding moves that I would tell you to make right now, Deontay, Pittsburgh can get out from his contract after this year. Trade him in season if he rebounds.
Yep.
Elijah Moore, if he does not rebound right now, I would honestly trade his ass straight up for a 24 second. If I could get that, and I don't give a shit where the second is, I'd trade him for a 24 second. And I'm only going to say this, and regardless of how everybody feels, and I don't know how you guys feel about Elijah Moore, tell me this. When was the last time we saw a guy flame out with a team that invested capital in him, and then he ended up bouncing back and being a really good dynasty player? Somebody answer that question. If y'all can think of any names, I'll sit here and eat crow. But
I don't have a historical data point for that. I do not. I will admit that.
Because most of the time, those guys, like, it is another data point that we need to listen to, that the NFL tells us. That
how about Christian Kirk?
Christian Kirk actually is a decent one.
That's a decent
free agent. He left as a free agent. It's different. Arizona didn't ransack and trade him away.
True.
Well,
the name you're looking for, Mike, is Andy Isabella. But
that's
Dante Pettis. Dante Pettis, second-round wide receiver, went trash, didn't do anything.
Well, I'm done looking.
Seriously, this is another data point we need to sit here and take in and say, that team invested draft capital. He flamed out, whatever it is. He flamed out. That doesn't usually correspond with a guy making a rebound.
Fair. I would say as a bet as a whole, and what historical data shows us, Elijah Moore is a bad bet. I will say though,
very bad.
Elijah Moore, at least if you're going to make the bad bet, I would say that the reason why is in his rookie season towards the end, he was showing like the promise. It felt like last year, I think what he did was to his own detriment in asking for a trade when you haven't really done anything to ask and demand a trade. And at that point forward, I think his career in his second year was sabotaged with the Jets, which, to the point Debro's making, that does make him someone to bet against. But talent-wise, like, he's going to a situation where I still think he could take over the number 2 role with Watson. But, again, like, on this build specifically, if you're going to re-roll out of Elijah Moore for a 24-second, I'm 100% with you. I also think that there's a scenario where Elijah Moore ends up being an outlier. But as a whole, I don't want to bet on outliers too much. So I don't have – I like Elijah Moore, but I don't have staunch way to disagree with you.
Even as an outlier, okay, let's play the rosy case for Elijah Moore.
Okay.
He rebounds and has a good season. And I'm saying good season, let's be realistic. Wide receiver 3 season. What are you realistically getting for him even in a trade, even if he does rebound? Like, and even in that scenario, I'd be like, yeah, man, I'll still take the 24-second. Like, even what an Elijah Moore rebound probably looks like, probably doesn't help his trade value that much, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I think the reason the 24-second makes most sense to cash out for is because, like, okay, let's say he actually has a true rebound. Like, let's say he's a high-end wide receiver 3, low-end wide receiver 2. Like, that's probably what a rebound looks like. Is that fair? Like a 24 to 30 range?
That's the high-end range of his outcomes, but I'll give you that. Like, that's fine.
I agree.
Like, well, let's say tip-top 5% outcome, 3% outcome. He's
Yes.
a wide receiver 2.
Yeah, and back end, right? Like
yeah.
wide
What does he
receiver
get you for
20
in
to
a trade?
30, right? I would say the reason I agree with the second part is because at that point, maybe you get a second and a plus, or you get 2 seconds at absolute most. Like that's
Maybe.
also using again the highest end of trade and his outcomes.
I'd say the best that you're probably hoping for his equity to rebound would be a 24-second and a 25-second.
I would agree.
Guess.
I would agree.
I don't think you would ever, in any rational outcomes for Elijah Moore this year, get anywhere close to a 24 first.
No, I would also agree with that. You're not going to get a first out of him. Like even if his production is wide receiver 24 to 20, you're not getting a first probably. So that's where I think the 24 seconds not that bad, because I think you at most you probably lose a second in value, and that's on the high end upside. Like if it all hits, and the reality is
got out way ahead of time.
The reality is right. The reward does not outweigh the risk, because Elijah Moore, if he doesn't, let's say he's wide receiver 4 on this offense, like, or the fourth piece. So let's say it's Amari Cooper still is the 1. Let's say that DJ Moore or DPJ is the 2. I'm sorry, and then now you have Njoku is the 3. Elijah Moore's okay, but he's the 4th piece in this offense. You have lost every piece of what that second was worth. You're not getting a second out.
This hurts because I do love Elijah Moore. I've loved him since he came into the league, stuck by him. It is making me reevaluate it, though, to be honest. And best case scenario, though, what you guys are talking about, like best case, and I threw it out earlier, it's best case I'm looking at a Christian Kirk. But logically, more than likely, what could happen and where he would be at realistically if he doesn't do anything this year or anything worth a shit, it's Chase Claypool, man. You went from a guy who staunchly believed in Chase Claypool to now this is a dude who's like a 16th, 17th round roster clogger wide receiver you throw on your rosters. And even in all the best ball leagues we do, like Adam, I'll have Chase Claypool on my roster, but he doesn't mean shit to me. Like that's
you would throw him into a deal as a throw-in, easy.
I throw him into a deal in a heartbeat, or like, if I feel the deal's close and I just need something else back, it's like, give me Chase Claypool. It's not that I even fucking like him. Just give me something. Maybe he has 1 week where he makes my lineup in a best ball league. But in a lineup league, he means nothing. Absolutely nothing. So those are your range of outcomes when we're talking about Elijah Moore, and those are some scary fucking ranges, right?
Or
at
he
best,
turns
I'm
into
looking
Gabe
at it like
Davis. Or he turns into
God.
Gabe Davis.
Yes, Gabe Davis.
Boom or bust to the moon, right? Like just
where if you got him, you're holding him because ain't nobody trading for him.
That's actually a fair middle ground too. Like, yeah, he's got some boom bust potential in that offense with Watson, but in lineup, like how often are you feeling great starting him? Because you probably start him off of the boom week, right? And then a bust week's coming, and then he comes off of 2 or 3 bust weeks, and you don't want to start him, and you have the boom week on your bench. That's the worst thing that happens.
All I realized is there's no fucking reason I should have Elijah Moore ranked ahead of Rashad Bateman, even as scary as
hell.
Oh my God, Mike!
Yeah, I know,
Michael.
Full transparency and honesty on this show is what I do, man. I'm looking at it. I'm going, what the fuck was I doing?
I never did that.
Rashad Bateman, Jesus.
All right, you know what? We're gonna do the Rashad Bateman thing. And we're gonna answer one more question before we get out of here, because the Rashad Bateman thing has to happen. I fully agree, because I will say, D-Bro, I'm with you 100%, but I also think that we have to at least admit that the same things could happen on Bateman, although he's still on the same team, if he doesn't do well this season. Mm-hmm. So I want to hear your thoughts on Bateman, because I know this is a juicy one for a lot of people. I think Bateman is now to the point where like people are either hella in on him or hella out on him, and I want to know the inside, because I'm in on Bateman still, but I want to know D-Bro's side on this.
I'm all in, dude. I have Bateman on so many damn Dynasty rosters, it's ridiculous, and I'm not selling him for shit right now. Like, I firmly believe it. Like, I'm all in. I got both feet firmly planted. And this is because when we have seen, okay, so we talked about Elijah Moore. Rashad Bateman hadn't shit the bed. Rashad Bateman hasn't sit here and asked for trades, and Rashad Bateman hadn't done all this kind of crazy shit. Okay, yeah, sure. He chirped at Eric DeCosta, but Eric DeCosta kind of seems like an asshole. I think Eric DeCosta kind of felt he kind of needed that in his life. But
fair.
When you look at what Rashad Bateman did last year, and I will push back again, I don't have sources inside of Baltimore. All I'm going to tell you is look at that damn depth chart last year, and there's no way that you could possibly even remotely conceive how Rashad Bateman, if he was fully healthy last year, would not have been 100% route per drop back player, and he was not. So, and you couple this with, he only made it 4 weeks, people, before he hit the shelf, and then he tried to come back, and then he hit the shelf for good. Fair. So I think even the sample we got out of Rashad Bateman last year was not even a fully healthy Rashad Bateman. So you're going to tell me that the guy in weeks 1 through 4 that was not possibly fully healthy, even if you want to tell me he was fully healthy, got almost a 20% target share, got 30% of the air yards. He was 4th in yards per route run, only behind Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and A.J. Brown. He was tied for 1st in yak per reception with Deebo Samuel. These are really damn good numbers if people can't pick up on this. Even if And I've been talking to my dude Nick Whalen off air and stuff, and he was like, what about that 75-yarder he broke against Miami? Even if you take the 75-yarder.
I saw this tweet.
You take the 75-yarder out of the equation. Dude still had 1.8 yards per route run. That would have put him at 27th out of 72 wide receivers. He was right next to Devonta Smith in that metric. 1.8 is solid. That's wide receiver 2 type of production.
True.
This guy is really fucking talented. And this year, if I'm making a bet for a guy that could sit here and be the number 1 in this offense and chase Mark Andrews for targets on a weekly damn basis, Rashad Bateman is that damn dude. Zay Flowers, I love him. He's a rookie. We don't know how much 11 and 12 personnel that they are going to run this year. Their 12 personnel, 2 starting wide receivers are going to be OBJ and Rashad Bateman. He's not coming off the damn field. Can't say that about Zay Flowers, although I think Zay Flowers can play outside. Wish they wouldn't even assign OBJ, but I get it. Yeah. OBJ is washed as shit. I'm sorry. It is what it is.
It's also...
Last time he played for the Rams, 15% target share, 1.2 yards per route run. These are wide receiver 3/4th type of numbers. He lived off of touchdowns. Bateman has that damn talent, and the only reason he is being priced the way he is because of injuries. The man can't help the fact that he got injured. He cannot help that he got injured and he came back, and the quarterback situation in Baltimore in his rookie season was total dog shit, and Tyler Huntley can't throw an accurate pass.
Sure.
This year, Rashad Bateman is coming for those mentions, man. I'm just saying it. I'm putting it out there in the space. He's going to blow up. I think he's going to sit here and be really damn close to Mark Andrews. And just to put the cherry on top of this beautiful cake that I have baked for y'all, he was 11th in route win rate. So even on a per route basis, he was top 12 in the NFL when he was on the field last year. You could take all the things away from this man that you want to in the counting stats. What he can perform and what he can control is how often he gets open on a route per route basis. The dude is fucking elite.
Oh, D-Bro is out here spitting cold, hard facts and numbers. Mike, I want to hear your answer because I know...
You asked for the smoke, so I gave you the smoke, man.
Listen, everybody wants to hear it. I don't know if everyone wants to hear it, but you had to hear it. Mike, what do you got?
Listen, I mean, they can want to hear it or not hear it. It's inevitable. This is like Thanos, man. He's coming for it. I'm telling you.
I will say it was probably egregious to put Elijah Moore, but they were very close.
Thank you for at least defending that. That's not a good ranking.
It was egregious, but it
was a late night decision, Mike. You might not have been sober, but damn it, I respect you for it.
Looking at it, man, The fact that people hate Rashad Bateman so much makes me in on him. Right, he was on our YouTube banner, which was a damn death sentence for anybody who made it onto our YouTube
That is
banner.
true.
Only
Only one person made it out
There's
alive.
only one survivor.
Devontae Smith, and everybody else was killed along the way.
Swift dead, Akers dead, Bateman dead. Like if you made it on our YouTube banner, it was not
Antonio
good for
Gibson dead.
you. Antonio Gibson dead. I'm
Well,
sorry.
in fair,
It
Antonio
happened.
Gibson kind of hurt himself. But anyway,
But
fight for another day.
Rashad Bateman going in the 10th round, early 10th round of startups right now. 10th round.
That's
He's going
late, man.
behind.
That's
He's
insane,
going.
dude.
He's going behind such South Harmon favorites, and this is me being facetious as shit. As Mike Williams,
Oh, come on.
Jonathan Mingo, Keenan Allen,
God damn.
right?
He's
Mingo?
going behind Mingo. What in the absolute shit are people doing, man? What?
So
Who else?
so
Who else?
yeah, Deontay Johnson and Jahan Dotson. So in my defense, okay, even though I ranked Elijah Moore ahead of him, which was egregious, I'm not as egregious as these fucking rankings or what people are actually doing in real startup drafts.
Aside from the damage to the boat, which we will fix.
aside from that,
Dude.
what'd you think?
I'm looking at Dynasty startups right now. People are taking freaking Mike Evans over Rashad Bateman. Like, whoa.
Yes,
What are we doing here, man?
with Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask, who look phenomenal in OTAs, man. They look great.
Yeah, the video clip that Social Team put out. But Baker
Fizzle-
Mayfield airing a 6-yard pass.
Fizzle
Somebody went
says,
for the mentions because they put Baker is in midseason form, baby. It's a beautiful thing. Oh.
Fizzle says that we're making the Madden cover curse real again.
Yeah.
Jay Jackson says that we're putting people in the grave. All right, we're gonna do one question here before we get out of here because I know we're gonna get off the rails. We're already kind of off the rails, which has been awesome. But I want this question to be the one that we finish on. All right, this is not league dependent, so I think it's a good one to talk about. Mike, Debro, do you want Gibbs and Jahan Dotson, or do you want Amon-Ra St. Brown? Let's say this is full PPR, just for the full case of the matter, because we know how much we love Amon-Ra on this show. We've already discussed it, and I see people itching at their beards, which I knew was going to happen. So what side we taking here, man? What side are we taking here?
Mike, you
In a
lead off.
vacuum. In a
Like, you're
vacuum.
leading off. You're taking this one. You're taking the first bullet. I'm not going for it.
I love this, man. This is a tough one. This really is a tough one. J-Dog, good question, man.
This hurts because last year, Adam, you and I specifically got kicked right in the balls with
the
our
fucking
immense
teeth.
love for running backs, right?
Yes.
Wide receivers don't matter. It's all about running backs. And what happened? Running
We
backs got
lost.
hurt.
Well,
Running
in
backs
lineup,
got-
we lost for sure. Right.
We took L's. Then what happens, man? We go to the draft. And I'm going, okay, all right, I don't like running backs no more. We're going to get Bijan Robinson. That's it. I'll be talking about Jahmyr Gibbs in the second round to a good spot, and I'll like him. But, it is what it is. And then what happens? He goes to the Lions, and I'm going, well, definitely Swift's on the move. Fuck. And the more and more I look at Jahmyr Gibbs, the more and more I get back in, and the more and more I go, Jahmyr Gibbs is everything I always wanted DeAndre Swift to be, but healthy right now. Not saying how
And
his career is going to
a
play out.
top
but
12
healthy.
pick in the NFL draft.
Top 12 pick in the NFL draft behind a fantastic offensive line.
Right.
I saw what Swift could do when he was healthy, and I don't even know if he was fully healthy most of those times because a lot of his usage was like they're babying the shit out of him.
Right.
I am so far back in on Jahmyr Gibbs, it's stupid. You put him up against a receiver on the same damn offense that I'm also very over consensus on. I'm just going to take the 2-for-1, man. I'm going to take my shot with me being so in on Jahmyr Gibbs. Really? The fact that I like Jahan Dotson, even though there's some metrics, and I mean, Scott talked about him and kind of just kicked me in the balls again about my Jahan Dotson today.
His metrics are bad. Doesn't scare you?
It doesn't, because then I see some other things. Like I see reception perception trees come out on him, and I go, oh, this motherfucker can run routes. This guy wins. This guy does things.
All right.
I love Jahan Dotson, but I love Jahmyr Gibbs so damn much more. You give me the 2-for-1, it's a bailout for me. I'm taking Gibbs and Dotson. Now, if you told me straight up, I would tell you, even as much as I love Gibbs, I think you're probably making a bad choice betting on the running back here over Amon-Ra because he's so damn elite. But you give me the 2-for-1 out, I'm going to take Gibson Dotson, and
All right.
I'll take the hate off it.
D-Bro, talk to us, man. Is Mike right, or are you going to fight him?
So Mike, I will give you some push, or at least some love on Dotson here. Okay, I talked about earlier about him flashing, at least over the back half of the season, what I thought was his potential upside scenario. So weeks 13 through 18 last year, he was 20th in target share, 24%. He was third in end zone target share amongst all wide receivers. Okay. 17th in weighted opportunity and 13th in yards per route run. Those are really damn good numbers. Now, I'm going to say this all to say that give me the best player in this damn trade. I want Amon-Ra.
Thank you.
Give me the best player in this trade, the one guy that I look at, and I had to go pull up my damn Dynasty ranks because I was like, shit, man, I think I'm ranking Gibbs higher than I thought I would be. But if I look at it straight up, like, and I know most of us are Superflex sickos. Like right now, I got Amon-Ra St. Brown as a top 20 player in Dynasty.
That's like
that's actually very fair.
As much as I like Gibbs, I still got Gibbs going in the 4th round somewhere. Like I'm not going to draft him earlier than like the 3rd or 4th round. And really, like, and I say the third because if you're super high on that, but like the 4th is where I have him. Like he's my 48th overall player. So for me, yeah, I'm still going Amon-Ra. For me, this is take the best player in the damn trade. If Dotson turns out to be something, maybe I'll lose this on the back end. But if Amon-Ra St. Brown turns in a top 3 or top 5 wide receiver season, I don't give a shit about it at all.
The last part D-Bro said, well, first and foremost, let me say I think that, Mike, you make good points as well as D-Bro. But the last point... I just
can't believe you didn't go with Amon-Ra. I'm a little bit disappointed.
Sorry. Well, this is what Mike does. Mike honestly likes controversy. You know, yeah.
Capitulating
he does. He lives in that era. You know, he lives in the thrive against everybody that wants to say anything. I'll say, though, the big thing for me here is, right, like if you told me in a vacuum, Mike, right, and you already said this at the beginning, to D-Bro's point at the end of his, if you said, Mike, it was Amon-Ra for Gibbs in a vacuum, you take Amon-Ra, correct? So you're going to take the 2-for-1. Now, all of a sudden, if that's the case, I'm betting on Jahan Dotson if I take the 2-for-1 because I don't want to take the 1-for-1.
You have to be full in on Jahan Dotson.
And I am not. I love Dotson, but not that much. I'll be honest. And I think what D-Bro said there is if at the end of the day, Dotson ends up smashing, right? And that's why I lose. I can look back and say, man, I didn't believe in the player as much as I should have, and there was reasons that we don't know today that we know in the future. And I can kind of live with that. Mm-hmm. If I end up going with the 2-for-1 and don't really believe in Dotson, but I knew at the time I took Amon-Ra ahead of Gibbs every time, like that's going to kill me looking back. And that's where I think I split the difference here is that point of, like, it's not that I hate Dotson. You guys probably already know if you listen to us long enough. I like Dotson, but just I don't like him enough here. I don't like him enough here in this type of a big boy trade up high. That's I guess the best way I could explain it to you. Now, if it's best ball, I get it, but generically answering the question, I'm going to take the Amon-Ra side.
I will say this in my defense. I stick with what I say too. Like if you've got a league with me and if I have Amon-Ra,
you'll take
you have
this.
Gibbs and Dotson, you send it to me, I'm taking it. The reason I say it too is you kind of touched on it, D-Bro. Like there's no question for me. Amon-Ra is a top 20 player, right? He's a 2nd round startup pick in Superflex. No question about it. That's where he should go. Jahmyr Gibbs for me also, not to discredit you at all. He's a 3rd round startup pick for me, and that's where people are taking him right now.
And I get that. It depends on rankings. That depends on where you
100%.
And I think that 3rd or 4th round value also depends on where you put the receivers versus those running backs too. So I value the receivers higher, so that pushes Gibbs down.
So when I look at it from that whole thing and back to how we used to value stuff with the trade show when we talk about it just in a vacuum, Adam, If you were telling me in a startup you're going to trade I got to trade my mid second round startup pick for a mid third round startup pick, and I'm going to get an 8th rounder on top of it, which is where Jahan Dotson goes. I do it 100 times out of 100, right? I make the pivot and I try to make the bet. Not that I think Dotson's ever going to be Amon-Ra. That would be incredible, and it's probably not going to happen. Okay, 99.9% that ain't going to happen because Amon-Ra is really good. But if he gives me 70% of Amon-Ra and Jahmyr Gibbs does anything worth around a 3rd round startup pick, I smash this deal out of the park 100 times out of 100. No question about it. So that's why I'm always just, and it's not two old players for one young player. It's nothing like that. It's 2 young assets for another young asset, which makes it all the more easier for me to go, I'll take the 2 for 1. I'll make the bet on the 2 guys actually producing similar to what Amon-Ra can. Now, if you get into league specifics, it's all over the place. In best ball, I smash this every single time, no questions about it. I don't ask you, Adam. I don't send you a DM going, "What do you think about this?" I take the 2 for 1. In a start 9 lineup league, different conversation. Much different conversation where I go, how many times would I actually feel good about pushing the button on Jahan Dotson in the start 9? Not very many. Like, he's a threshold wide receiver, but I'm only going to start him maybe 1-2 times a year if I'm lucky. So very different conversation, but I still, the way the question's posed, give me Gibbs and Dotson.
I'll push back against my own, like me taking Amon-Ra here, because I could see a scenario where if Gibbs goes out, he smashes this season. I think there's a very real scenario after this season that you could, like, trading Gibbs straight up for Amon-Ra also wouldn't be a crazy thing. If he goes out and he absolutely just smashes the entire damn season, he's a top 10 running back. I think there's also a fair outcome here where trading Gibbs straight up for Amon-Ra is a very easy thing, and it's widely accepted, and that's fine, and that's good value. Or hell, maybe even people go to the Gibbs side. So if Dotson does anything in this trade, if he gives you low end wide receiver 2, high end 3 type of production, I could come out of that looking bad or losing value in the trade. But the other side of this is like, okay, if Gibbs gives you RB2 production and Dotson's a wide receiver 3, then how are you feeling that you traded that you didn't have Amon-Ra and he turned in another wide receiver 1 season, much less a top 5 or 3 season? You know, so it's ranges of outcomes. And this is where I think, like, at its very core, people, especially that are new to Dynasty, are so wary about trading because we're all just shooting our shots. We're going with the information that we have right now. You're trying to project forward, but that's still in an exact science. So in what we know now, I'll take the best player in the deal, but I will absolutely concede that I could honestly lose out on that deal too.
I think the way Debro said that too is definitely fair. Like, and Mike, when I say I'll take the Amon-Ra side, there is a scenario where let's say Dotson, in the incomplete season we had in his rookie year, the stats that we look at don't add up to what he is next year, right? Like, absolutely 1,000 times he could be really good. He was a 1st round pick. We like the profile. But if you told me that's the difference in what I know today, I want the elite asset. Now, to Debro's point, like, if you tell me in a year from now I'm looking stupid, I'm not going to say, man, that's shocking to me. But with what I know today, I want the best player in the deal, given that what makes it up is that it's Dotson. That's the way I look at it in a vacuum. So, because
the other part about this, Adam, is that we hadn't even talked about that Sam Howell could be the great, like, hard cap that's put on this offense. We don't know how much they're going to pass. Right. We don't know what an Eric Bieniemy offense looks like. It could be great. It could be a total shit show. Like, we don't know. No. We have no clue.
We haven't seen Eric Bieniemy outside of Mahomes, right? Like,
Sam Howell could be good, but if they only throw the damn ball 25 times a game, doesn't fucking matter. You know? So
because Terry's going to eat a good amount of targets there too. 100% with you, D, bro. Mike, what were you going to say?
I think the craziest thing is where we went from Amon-Ra, this time last year, right? You could buy Amon-Ra for a late 1st, right?
I traded him away, and I regretted on some of them, but that was early in the offseason before I did all the homework, and I was like, what in the hell am I talking about? This guy's good.
It was this time last year. I'm out there bookmarking tweets on Twitter when DJ Chark, signs, and this is the death sentence for Amon-Ra St. Brown, right? That's where we were at. But I think there is, as much as we sit here and we glow about Amon-Ra, still within the community, there's still a little stink on him because he wasn't a early draft pick, right? That draft capital stink still goes. It takes a while, man. Look how long it took for Stephon Diggs, and still sometimes he doesn't get all the flowers that he deserves, even though he just elite all the time, all the single time. Now now he's too old, right? Now he's past the age threshold, so Stephon Diggs isn't in that elite territory anymore. So there is a little bit of stink with Amon-Ra still because of that draft capital, but it's not as bad as it was last year. I can't acknowledge that. I just thought it was a funny thing to bring up when we talk about the difference between what Amon-Ra does his second year. He had a fantastic rookie year, especially that back half, the elite of the elite. You can look at all the numbers there.
True.
He was fantastic. And then DJ Chark was the thing that was going to kill him, right? It's over because DJ Chark's like there.
Who got traded.
And now we're sitting here, we're having a conversation about a guy who goes in the first round of the 2023 draft as a running back, which rarely happens anymore, or Amon-Ra St. Brown. So very interesting.
Can we also acknowledge the slot only stink that JSN is also having to deal with?
Yep.
Can we get past this as a community? I don't give a flying fuck if you only play the slot. I do not care if your team runs a lot of 3 wide. I don't care. And the other part about this that comes with that slot only stinkification that people try to put Amon-Ra with, this dude was first in PFF receiving grade against man coverage. He was 8th in yards per route run against man coverage. He is not only a slot wide receiver. He is, honestly, if you want to follow what I think is the closest comparable career arc to Amon-Ra, when he came out, I was hoping for Jarvis Landry. What I feel like we are looking at right now is a guy that did not test extremely well. He garnered a shit ton of targets from the time that he stepped on the NFL field. And now he can not only win from the slot, but he can win outside.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a bad narrative. He legit is following the same career arc based off of what I look at as Cooper Kupp.
Oh, shit.
You know what's funny, though, is
Cooper Kupp was talked about as only a slot option.
This is such a big point.
As a mid-round wide receiver. Cooper Kupp was talked about as a guy that cannot beat press or man coverage outside. Well, Cooper Kupp said, fuck that.
Yeah, well, it was funny because it was during the Matthew Stafford trade, right? So if you remember, Cooper Kupp was coming off a really good year. Jared Goff was the quarterback, and it was basically clear that McVay was over the Goff situation. They started running a bunch of 12 personnel, right? And so the 12 personnel narrative was carrying over into the Matthew Stafford trade, and it put Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp and startups kind of close in that offseason, which is going into the 2021 season. And it's so funny how when Stafford got there and McVay had his chance, like 12 personnel was not even close to the primary package, and it didn't matter. Like, he could have played outside, but he can put him anywhere on the field when you're not running 12 personnel. And Cooper Kupp has eaten since then. So I'm fully with you, D-Bro, about the slot thing. Like, first and foremost, even if they were a primary slot guy, like, we've seen elite players get a bunch of slot looks in today's passing NFL. So we already can admit at least that even if that was the case, they can still thrive. But I don't know. I've watched a lot of Jackson Smith-Njigba as an Ohio guy, an Ohio State fan. I don't think the slot-only narrative is for him, but I do understand why people are concerned with testing. I'm going to put the metrics that he has put onto the field higher up than just the combine when he is eaten when time has arisen for him.
Bad at the combine, though. Like, somebody needs to come at me and tell me, what did he do bad at the combine? Like,
I can't do that, but I can tell you people will on Twitter. If you want to put it on Twitter, but it'll happen.
He ran out and ran a 4.5.
It's because he didn't test, right? On certain stuff.
He tested as an elite athlete on short area agility.
Correct.
And if there is one position, now I give I care immensely about testing metrics when it comes to tight ends. I think there is a bar for size, speed, and testing metrics for running backs that can hard cap your ceiling or prove that you are just a schmo. For wide receivers, if you go through all of the top wide receivers in the league, they're all over the map for testing metrics. All of these dudes that come out and run a 4.2 and break the combine, your John Rosses, your Mecole Hardmans, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, all these guys that run super fast. Now, are there guys that can hit? Sure. Yes. Christian Watson, alien, baller football player. But if there is one position I'm willing to sit here and fade some of the testing metrics, and this is not talking about Jackson Smith-Njigba because he tested perfectly freaking fine. There is not a problem with it at all.
Right.
It's wide receiver. Because it comes down to the simple fact of if you can get open, you know how to run routes, you have the ability, you are going to earn targets.
Yep.
If you can't run routes and you can't get open and it's all scheme production or what have you, then you're probably going to fall in your face. If there is one position I'm willing to fade a little bit of the testing stuff and say, yes, this guy, Amon-Ra St. Brown, can run a 4.6 and still be a freaking baller, you're damn right. It's wide receiver.
Right. We didn't even touch on the slowest wide receiver, Keenan Allen, at his 4.76, right? Like sometimes it just
By the way,
right.
Since we're talking about slot-only wide receivers, I was talking to my dude Brad Whitefield from Fantasy Points earlier today, and I was talking to him about just like Keenan Allen and the Chargers offense. I threw this out there on Twitter when I talked about Quentin Johnston. I don't think anybody's willing to come to terms with the fact that Keenan Allen last year had 2.4 yards per route run as an outside wide receiver and had a 30% target per route run rate. But I hear he's only a slot wide receiver, so I guess we got to fade his old ass too.
Fade him. He's too old, man, and he only runs a 4.76. He's god awful. It's horrible.
It's just what it comes down to is there is reality and there is numbers and there are things that tell you how good of a player is, and then there is all the social media bullshit where people want to dive into narratives and they're just wrong.
Man. See, and the worst part about that though, D-Bro, why it's so true is this is conjecture season. Like from end of May, like once your rookie drafts are over until the start of the season, this is the peak bullshit season. So everybody watching, you've heard long rants, great rants. Don't buy into the bullshit. All right, that's the primary thing. Don't buy into the narratives that are not sticky. Someone's going to try to sell you on.
Be careful of the content that you consume.
Be mindful of the content you consume. Damn it, D-Bro. That's a great plug at the end of this. Be mindful of the content you consume. That's 100% a ragey line that's so fucking
telling,
true.
Man.
It's so fucking
true.
So
telling because you can tell the people that are good in these dynasty streets and that are not.
That's 1,000% correct. D-Bro, man, listen, I cannot say this enough. We appreciate you hopping on. This has been a epic show, even though we delayed everybody by the 9-minute faux pas of last week. Listen, man, it was like some of these dynasty streets. People don't believe they saw the 9-minute show. We came in here, and this is over an hour and a half. This is an hour and 45-minute show. So, D-Bro, you lived up to the hype. I know there's nothing you need to plug because you're on our little stream, but we sincerely appreciate you hopping on, man. It's been a blast kicking it with you, dog.
Dude, thank y'all for having me. This was an absolute blast. Anytime y'all need somebody, just holler. I'm here. I'm in like Flynn. That ain't even a question. No, I feel glad that y'all decided to have my loud ass on here. So I've never, from the start of doing this all the way to today, it still surprises the shit out of me that anybody cares about anything that I have to say about anything. So y'all are sitting here thanking me as far too damn kind. Thank y'all for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely,
Mike.
I
appreciate you, man. I appreciate you coming on so much, man. Go check this guy out if you haven't already. He is you think it's entertaining on here, man. The Twitter follow is just as good. The Twitter follow.
Y'all got to follow him on Twitter.
Dude, sometimes I just like to when I see bad narratives floating around, sometimes I just like to watch the world burn. I'll throw it out there.
I will say there was one time today when D-Bro was going into it. I was like, I saw him do this on Twitter, and I know where he's getting, and this is good stuff. It's entertaining, and it at minimum, go follow him on Twitter. But he does great work for Fantasy Pros as a guy that, while humble and modest, does awesome work. I have followed everything. Every time him and Ray G collab, I'm literally waiting at my phone for it to drop. So make sure you're checking everything that D-Bro does out if you're here watching us. But Mike, anything you got before we get out of here, buddy?
No, just another big thank you, Derek, for coming on. It's been incredible. You're one of those people that we get on and we can just vibe, right? It's just a vibe.
I didn't realize it was an hour and a half, dude.
I was gonna say.
That's why Adam just said it. I was like,
Fizzle's out here.
I feel like we're just getting warmed up. We're doing super.
I know, bro. I could go all night, but I'm sitting here looking like, okay, we got D-Bro's time. And Fizzle, listen, the 9-minute thing, right? Like the one pump and dump, listen, man, we could do this, right? We can go the distance. So stop trying South Harmon. Stop trying the combo that we got here, the collab with D-Bro,
Man, that's all I got though. Just big thank you. I knew the vibe was good the last episode, even though we only went 9 minutes. It's because we got such a late start because we're sitting backstage just bullshit.
Right. We were too. We were kicking it backstage too, for sure.
So anytime you can get on and just chat football, chat ball, talk players, talk values, we don't have to agree about everything, but it's good to figure out that I'm an idiot for ranking Elijah Moore way too high. And I'm sorry, Rashad Bateman, but I will not be putting Rashad Bateman back on the YouTube banner this year because that's a death sentence. The Madden curses.
Yeah,
we're gonna put shitty players we don't like on there.
We're gonna the banner's changing as a whole. Like, it's not gonna be players that we like a lot because we don't want to do that to them. Mike, stop. Last year you faded Bateman, but you were right. This year you're fading Bateman, but you're wrong. Okay, so just stop fading Bateman and we'll be okay.
D-Bro, put George Pickens on there. Just put him on there.
That's what we need to do, right? A player we don't actually like and just subject him to a death sentence. I love that from D-Bro. We are out of this thing. D-Bro, appreciate you hopping on. Everybody, appreciate you guys tapping in. See you same time, same place next week for the South Harmon AMA. We're out of this thing. Peace.